Hello, welcome to another episode of Think About It. As we continue our courtship series from singleness to maybe I do. Today, I have with me Edris again. We are here in the studio. We're going to talk about the difference between dating and courtship. Hello, Edris.
Hey, how's it going? I'm glad that you all are tuning in back again as we discuss this very important topic, and I think it's something that we all can learn something and we all can improve. So even if you're already married, you could still learn something that could make your marriage better. So it's not just for single people; it's for everyone. We can all learn something.
Yeah. So the topic is dating and courtship. When I was younger, I didn't even know about courtship, and I thought it was only dating. And even when I eventually learned about courtship, I thought they were the same thing. Courtship. I thought it was just like using different terms for the same thing. So I'm happy we're gonna talk about this topic today, where you're gonna break it down for us so we can understand the differences.
Yeah, no, it's true because even with me, and I find that a lot of young people make grave mistakes in this area because we all hear other people talk about dating. So we grow up and we learn about dating, but when you start learning more about God and understand what God wants from each of His children, you realize, man, as a child of God, I can't really be out there dating. Courtship is what God called His children to do.
That's shocking news to a lot of people listening. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're like, what do you mean? Like God is against dating?
Well, yeah, I mean, well, again, if you really want to get in depth into what dating means and what courtship means, you will realize, okay, maybe God is against dating.
Okay,
But
look,
God is all for courtship.
I'm ready for this, man. Let's get into it. So what is dating? Tell me.
So dating, okay, so the idea of dating, most of the time, there's no real intention behind it. People usually don't have a plan of, okay, at the end of this dating, this is what I need. People just date around just to date. They call it simpling out. You date this person just to see if we compatible or whatever the case is, or you may be dating multiple people at the same time.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And the other thing with dating too, dating involves everything. It's not just you having physical intimacy with these people with all these different people that you are dating, which we know that God is against sex
Definitely.
before marriage.
Definitely.
So again, when we talk about dating is just going around and dealing with different people, seeing how we can deal with each other to see if we can move further forward. But there's not really a definite plan for the dating.
I know, like, sometimes people date just because they are lonely.
That happens too.
I'm lonely. Let me go on an online dating website and find me somebody to comfort me, right? So you're saying basically these things are not the way of God. Like dating, the way it's performed. Because as you're mentioning that, right? A lot of people they would date, and after like a week or 2 weeks, they already like getting into like sexual intimacy and all that type of stuff.
That's if they wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of days.
Yeah, and they feel like because I'm gonna be with this person anyway, whatsoever. It's just like, I guess, like, dating is just blindly going into stuff.
Exactly. It's like when you date, it's you are being led by your impulse and basically your feelings and your emotion. Like your impulse says go do this. You just going with the flow. It's not really specific. While now we talk about dating, so courtship.
Yeah, let me know about courtship now, because dating is how the majority of the world, and matter of fact, even in the church. So one thing I'm gonna say about that too, as you're speaking about dating, right? If you notice, a lot of times, even in the church, people are having a relationship at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They're dating. And you can see a lot of disaster come as a result of that, right? Because I know we had a conversation one time, a prior video, where we spoke about like courtship and how like the preparedness for courtship, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm dating at 16, 17, 18, I know I'm nowhere near marriage.
Nowhere near marriage.
It's already leading to disaster.
Yep.
All right. So we can see that dating is detrimental.
Yeah.
Like in the sense, like even Christianity and the things of God.
Yeah.
What about courtship? What is courtship?
So what is courtship? Courtship is the best way to define courtship is a sincere and an earnest effort of two By two, let me I have to be specific about what the two is. Two meaning a man and a woman.
We got to be clear about that because our society now, they believe in you can be a man and a man in a relationship, or a woman and a woman. That's sin.
No, that's sin. You got to call sin by its right now. That's sin.
Yes.
No, a sincere effort, a sincere, earnest effort of two, a man and a woman, that are seeking to find out if it's God's will for them to unite their interests in marriage.
Okay.
That's the real definition of courtship.
Okay.
And with that being said, if the goal, right, the intention going into a courtship is that, okay, I'm seeing if it is the will of God for me and this person to end up in marriage.
Yeah.
So we have an end goal right before we even start. So the long-term goal is this will end in marriage.
Yeah.
The difference is between that and dating is when you're dating, you don't have a long-term goal to end in marriage. You're just dating just to date. Okay, I'm just going to date. I'm going to date this person here, date this person there, and then whatever happens, and we'll see.
And there's a verse in the Bible that says, without a vision, the people perish.
The people perish.
In dating, there is no vision.
There's no vision. It's just you just going about, you jumping from ship to ship. Okay, if I date this person and then things work out well, then okay, we'll continue doing it.
Yeah, matter of fact, sometimes.
And eventually it might end up in marriage, but the intent going in wasn't that to find a long life partner.
And you can see people are perishing, like we mentioned, a lot of the traumas, a lot of the brokenness or whatever.
Yeah.
But with courtship, there is a clear vision.
There's a clear vision. There's a clear intent. The end goal for courtship is marriage.
Yes.
And it's a godly marriage.
Yes.
It's not just marriage, but a godly marriage. So when we say, okay, courtship is an earnest and sincere effort of two, a man and a woman, seeking if it's God's will. So already we can see that, okay, God is in the midst of it. Mm-hmm. So before we even come together to see if it's God's will for you and I, or you or me and a girl to get married, we have to first go seek counsel from God.
Yeah.
Which means, which we talked about before in the previous videos that we've done, that there needs to be a relationship that's built with God first.
Yeah. And that's that preparation, like in singleness, the previous video we did, the preparation of singleness, and then what we did. So one other thing I realized, so as just based on those definitions, automatically you can see that somebody who's like 16, 17, 18, 19 years old may not be qualified, shouldn't be having a relationship with the opposite gender, that kind of like romantic relationship, because if they are not ready for a marriage. Yeah. And if we're speaking about courtship here, are we speaking about like, I know we probably won't talk about that in detail. Are we speaking about like 5, 6, 7 years of courtship?
No, we're not talking about a courtship shouldn't last that long.
Okay.
Courtship, there's not really a set time, but if you're courting someone with the intent to marry, basically, and you did all the diligence, all your homework, it shouldn't take you more than 2 years. And
one of the key things we have to mention against in courtship, because it's dealing with like trying to do things the right way in the way of God. There is no sex involved.
There's no sex involved.
And if there's no sex involved, it's going to be hard to go 3, 4, 5 years courting someone, right?
Yeah. So a courtship shouldn't go that long. I say I put 2 years as the maximum. Usually within a courtship, 6 months to a year, you should know that, okay, this is the person, or you should know, okay, this ain't the person for me.
Yeah. That's a good question, because a lot of times, like, you have people dating people for 5, 6, 7 years, and you ask them, like, why are you not married yet? And they're still puzzling, be like, I don't know, this may not be the person for me. Yeah. Matter of fact, to take it further, you have people living together.
Let's take it even further. They have kids.
Yeah, they have kids.
They have multiple kids, and you're like, hey, why don't you get married? Like, yeah, man, I'm not ready. But children bind you two people together for life, because as long as you have this child, you already bind together for life. Yeah. But then people say, oh, I don't think I'm not ready, or I don't think but you having kids with this person.
Yeah. And they can't see. And when I think one other thing too that happened between courtship and difference between courtship and dating a lot of times, because we mentioned there are no vision, there is like no structure, and sex can be involved. The person is actually blinded to who their partner really is.
It really is, because usually the one thing, once you have physical intimacy, there's a pulling effect that happened between the two person, because when God created the institution of marriage, it says that, the two shall become one flesh, right? Once you start getting into that physical intimacy, basically, in a sense, it's like you married already. You becoming one flesh.
Yeah.
So now, let's say down the line, you realize, okay, this is not going to work out. It becomes harder for you to pull away.
Yeah.
Because you having this physical intimacy that brings you, that there's an emotional bond that draw you to each other. That's hard to detach.
Break apart. Yeah. So it's detrimental, man. So now that I think we made it clear what courtship is and what dating is, the difference is. Now I really want to know more about courtship. So now that we know, let's say somebody's out there say, you know what, I realize dating is wrong. I don't want to continue dating because I realize I've been through a different relationship with no end goal, and I'm just it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Now I want to do it God's way because God's way is courtship, right?
Yeah.
Now, what's the first step?
So I'm glad you bring that up. So the first step is not always going straight to courtship, right? Because people think, okay, you know what, I got to get married, like I'm gonna go and start dating somebody or start courting somebody. No, that's not the first step. And we're gonna cover each steps in different video, but today we're going to talk a little bit about more the first step.
Oh, so they got multiple steps.
There's multiple steps.
Okay.
There's multiple steps. You have to understand. Like there's a verse in the Bible. I don't know if in Psalms 37, verse 23, it says that the steps of a good man are ordered after the Lord. Right. So in everything that a good man is doing, it has to be steps. It has to be step by step that he goes. Like even your life, right? When you was born, you didn't start walking right away.
No.
The first step is you had to crawl.
Yeah.
And then eventually you stand. And then eventually now you start walking.
Yeah.
And then you start running. So in everything in life, there has to be step by step. You accomplishing your goal. So it's the same thing with when it comes down to courtship or to marriage. There has to be preliminary steps that needs to be taken before we get to the marriage. I mean, the end goal is marriage, right? Before marriage, what do we have? Engagement.
Yeah.
Before engagement, what do we have?
You have
the courtship.
Courtship, yeah.
Okay, but there's steps that follow before we get to the courtship.
Before the courtship, what do we have? You see the girl, or the girl see the man that she like, right? I think that's before the courtship. You gotta see. You know what I'm saying? You gotta see.
So the first step we gotta cover is you gotta know. The first step you gotta know, because not everyone is called to marriage. The first step is God calling me to marriage?
That's true.
Because not everyone is called to marriage.
Yeah.
Because we find it, I think Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians, if I'm not mistaken, 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 6 to 9, where he says, "For I would that all men were even as myself, but every man have his proper gift of God, one after this manner, and another after that. But he said, I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I." That's Paul talking. But he says, "But if they cannot, let them marry, for it is better to marry than to burn."
Burn with passion.
Than to burn with passion. It's better to be married than to burn with passion. So again, Paul is bringing out something that's clear that okay, I would have liked everyone to be like me, not married, but I know that God has called different people to different ministry, because people don't look at marriage as a ministry. It
is definitely a ministry.
It's a ministry.
Because just a key little detour on that. A lot of people think, when they get married, it's for them to be satisfied, for somebody to satisfy them, or somebody to fulfill all their needs. And they don't understand that marriage is not like that at all. Marriage is a ministry. First of all,
it's about God.
It's about God. So the fact that it's about God, it's about ministry. And if you know anything about God, it's like God is love.
God is love.
And I know we spoke about that before at some point, but love by definition is other-centered.
Yes.
So marriage is not going to be about you. It's going to be about the other
person.
And this is very hard for our society, which is a selfish and proud society. So that's one thing we have to understand. Like, not all of us may be called towards marriage, because marriage is not an easy thing.
It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. And again, in the best way to know this, like we talked about it in the very beginning, you have to have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
Because as you counsel with God, okay, you have a relationship with God, okay. You go to God, you ask God, look, I'm at a certain age, or I've accomplished this in life and this and that, are you calling me to marriage? And then also, not just God, also your parents. God-fearing parents. These are people you go counsel with and ask them, look, what do you think? Do you think that I should be married? And of course, they're going to help you.
Yeah.
They're going to help you because who knows you best?
Your parents have a pretty good idea.
Your parents have a pretty good idea about who you are. Your parents may say, you know what, my child, I don't think you're ready for marriage yet. Maybe you need a couple more years to mature, or whatever the case may be. Or they may be like, okay, I think you've done this, and you've shown maturity in the home. I think you're ready to have a home of your own.
Yeah.
And as you counsel with your God-fearing parent, and you counseling with God, and you will get the answer, okay, that God is calling me to marriage. But the key important thing is we have to counsel God.
Yeah.
We have to counsel God. We have to counsel our parents. Now, I know some people may say, what happened if I don't have a parent? What if both my parents died? Or what if I don't have, because I mentioned godly parents. What if I don't have a godly parent? I mean, if you're a Christian, there's a home-based church that you go to. And there's men and women of experience in the church, meaning that people that are already married, that have wisdom, that have done this, that knows, and that have a connection with you. They know you from the church. They know you growing up in the church or whatever. They know the kind of person that you are. You can go and counsel with these people. Yeah. Asking them what they think. Do they feel like God is calling you to marriage? Ask them what they think. What do they see? What do they know? When they see you, what do they see you?
You can even ask them to pray for you too.
You can ask them to help you pray as well.
Yeah.
That if God is calling you, pray and help me ask God to know that if God is calling me to marriage.
Now, I think that's pretty important because I think, like you mentioned in the verse, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord.
By the Lord.
Right? And that's one thing that's very important in life. Every decision you want to make, you want to do it with the Lord.
Yeah.
And this is where the world is where the world goes wrong and why we're in such a mess that we are in. We're trying to make decisions without God. And it leads to disaster. Speaking about marriage, the person that you see now that is so beautiful or so handsome, you think makes you happy or whatever, you don't know the future.
You don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Like you may say, okay, this person's gonna make my life happy, and 5 years later, they make your life a living hell.
I remember I was talking to one of my boys, like, man, when I was going out with my girl before we got married, she was a lamb. We moved to the house, she becomes a lion.
You know what I'm saying?
It's crazy,
and that's why, like I say, you never want to do these things, especially like these major decisions in life. Marriage is a
big decision
step in life.
And I want to bring forward like this quotation that I read from a very book. I think it's a good book. I think everyone should read this book. It's a book called Adventist Home.
Yeah, very good book.
It's a very good book. It talks in details about like marriage, like the steps before marriage, courtship, singleness, and all these things. And you can learn a lot from this, as you read the book, and you can also read the Bible alongside with it.
We'll put a link at the bottom of the video, so if anybody want to have I think they probably have it online. Link you can go into, you can check it out. It's very good.
It's a very good book.
Yeah.
So there's a quotation. The quotation says, "Let every step toward a marriage alliance be characterized by modesty, simplicity, sincerity, and an earnest purpose to please and honor God." To please and honor God. That's the point I want to bring across. Because when we think about marriage, a lot of times we're not thinking about how to please and honor God. We're thinking about, okay, how I'm going to please and how I'm going to get from what I'm going to get from this person.
No, even thinking about that, man. We're thinking about how somebody else is going to please
me. How I'm going to please myself. How someone else is going to please me.
Yep. I'm going to be the center of their world.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
I find my better half. I find again, we're not thinking about how this thing is going to be pleasing to God. When marriage affects the afterlife, both in this world and in the world to come.
Yeah.
And the quotation went on to say that a sincere Christian will make no plans that God cannot approve.
Yes. So, man, this is good. As we are speaking about courtship, now we already know dating is not good, for a Christian. We're speaking about courtship. Now, as a Christian, I cannot see someone who's not a Christian, right? Matter of fact, who's of a different persuasion, who could be a Christian, and then I say, you know what? I'm gonna go do courtship with this person when God says, "Do not be unequally yoked."
Oh man, you're touching something. We might have to do another video just on that. Do not be equally yoked. It's big. And again, since you bring it up, we didn't plan on talking about it, but since you bring it up, we could talk about it. Do not be equally yoked goes even beyond just someone being a Christian or someone sharing the same views as you, right? You could be, someone could be, two people could be Christian and they're still not equally yoked.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Being equally yoked goes in depth into different things. You know, do you have the same view on how you're going to raise your children, where you're going to live, you know, how the dynamics are going to be in the marriage, you know, do we want to travel? Like a lot of things go into play when we talk about equally yoked. But the main thing is, of course, we have to have the same view when it comes to how we view Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back again, I think we mentioned that in the previous video, in Amos, it says, can two walk together lest they be agreed?
Amos 3.
So as we're speaking at that preparation for courtship, right? We're looking at the first step.
Yeah.
The one other thing you don't want to do is to try to go into a courtship with someone who is not walking in the same spiritual path as you. Yeah.
It's gonna be detrimental to you. You already have here a point to have arguments, constant argument.
Yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes and it's crazy because sometimes what people do is they're like, okay, I know I'm with this person now. Yeah, we don't share the same view when it comes to that. But eventually, you know, I'm gonna persuade them, or eventually they're gonna change. You with someone, but you planning on being with them based on how they're gonna change, but not for what they are or who they are right now.
You're taking the place of God. I mean, you claiming you know the future now. You know what I'm saying? And some of us, that's how we approach these things, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
No, we cannot go about you know the steps like this. And again, the first step, which we cover, is God calling me to marriage? You want to make sure that it's God who's calling you to marriage, and it's not because it's just something because you are here, or because my friend just got married and you know it was a beautiful wedding. I was there, I participated in the wedding. Man, I want to get married too. That's not it. That's not it. It has to be legitimate that God is really calling you to marriage, and when you get into this marriage, God has a purpose for you in that marriage.
Before we end, because I know we're gonna only cover this point for this podcast. What are some practical ways, right? Because like you just mentioned, sometimes people be like, they see someone, their desires are for that person, and they say, oh, I think God is calling me to marriage. So how could you counsel someone to look at the practical steps so that they can recognize, yes, God is calling me to marriage at this time?
I'm glad you asked that. First thing, build a relationship with God. Read God's word. Pray to God and ask God, are you calling me to marriage? And then you got to ask him very specifically. Ask him, okay, God, if you're calling me to marriage, lead me in your word to specific texts, specific Bible verse that deals with my situation. Because I'm the one asking, not general. It's not a general question. It's for myself, right? Are you calling me to marriage? Lead me to specific texts, or, you know, that would be based on my situation. That's number one. Number two, we talk about seeking counsel from your parents. Who knows you best? Your parents. Ask them specifically. Ask them, look, do you think that I'm ready for marriage?
Yeah.
And they will tell you, and then you can ask them specifically, what areas you feel like I should improve on before I go to that step. And they will tell you. And then, of course, we talk about men and women of experience in the church who knows you, you know, watch you grow up, and, you know, they know you, they deal with you, you know, week in, week out, you know, and you can ask these people questions, the same questions, you know, do you think that I'm ready for marriage? And you can also, like you mentioned, ask them to help you pray so that God can answer that question, you know, if God is calling you to marriage. And of course, do not move to the next step until the answer for that first step is clear.
Yeah.
That, okay, it's clear. I got the affirmation from my godly parents that God is calling me to marriage. I got the affirmation from God. God sent me to specific text in the Bible that deals with my situation, that affirms that, okay, he's calling me to marriage. I got affirmation from men and women of experience in the church that knows me, that affirm that I'm ready for marriage. Okay, I'm ready for marriage.
Okay.
And then, you know, okay, now that I'm ready for marriage, then I can move to that next step.
All right. And we're not going to talk about that next step now. That's for the next episode. So you got to follow up.
Yes.
That's for the next episode.
You got to tune into the next episode to follow up. What is the next step once you know that God has called you for marriage?
All right. Thank you, my brother, for this wonderful talk. We hope you enjoy this. We want you to share it. Any last word, my brother?
No, this is it. I mean, the only thing I want to say is marriage is something that links two people together for life. Remember, it affects you in this life, and it also affects you in the life to come. A marriage, a beautiful marriage, can lead you to heaven, but a bad marriage can lead you to the other side. So think about it. Think about it this way. So if that's the case, then it's something that should be taken serious. So you want to make sure that you are following God on the steps to take to make sure you have a good marriage.
Amen. I feel like you were preaching right now. Once again, this is Think About It, and we are out.